Hi, welcome to the latest video in IR Magazine's Wednesday Winners video series, where we interview winners in a socially distanced manner around the world. Today, I'm joined by Caroline Fong, Head of Investor Relations at Manulife US REIT, based in Singapore. So, Carol, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, hi Ben. Hi, good to see you. And thanks for inviting me. It's always an honor and pleasure to be able to share with fellow IROs out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to this conversation. So, Carol, at last year's Southeast Asia Awards, you did very well. You won the Best Investor Relations Officer for small and mid-cap category, and the Best in Country for Singapore. So, I'd love if we could start by you just sort of talking me through your approach to investor relations at the REIT.
Yeah, thanks Ben for the question. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would like to just say that the awards really goes out to the team. It's not just a solo award, because there's no way that we could have won and clinched those awards if I fly solo. So I have a great team, and I'm truly blessed to have them really support me and believe in what I do. So maybe for me, right, talking about the approach, I mean, it's a big word because I'm quite, I would say, creative in a sense. I don't have a fixed approach for things that I do, but I guess what is really maybe inside me when I look at IR, doesn't matter which company I'm in, whether it's a REIT or it's a listed company, what is important is basically two things. The first is I need to know my audience. I need to know my audience really well. And the second thing is, what do I have to offer you, which is my unique selling point. So if I think that if I kind of get these two things right, the rest of my IR strategy will follow in place. So that's the first thing, how I look at my approach itself. And I mean, just to also share, right, I mean, in Manulife US REIT's journey, I was brought in early 2016 to help Manulife US REIT list. And it has been the most thrilling and most challenging IR job I've ever done in my entire career. And I didn't think that would be the case. Of course, like, you don't know what you're getting into until you're really into it. But it was really, really challenging because we were the first US REIT to ever be listed in Singapore and even in Asia. So always being the first means that, you don't know what has happened, what has gone before you or not. And as much as Manulife is a superb brand name in the rest of the world, and also, I mean, largest insurance firm, one of the largest in Canada, when we came to Singapore, people were like, who's Manulife? And why are they trying to list a REIT in Singapore? So people were rather skeptical. And that kind of clouded a lot of investors' mindset and even analysts. And we weren't going to list it big. It was going to be a very mid-sized, decent IPO that we're going to do. So that was one thing that was a story really of David and Goliath. Because what the market has was REITs that have already been in Singapore for many years, right? Their brand names, you walk down the streets, you see their logos everywhere. And then all of a sudden you have this, so we call ourselves like the little green dot, because Manulife's corporate color is green.
Sure.
So there's this little green dot trying to plant our flag and trying to like wave it and say like, hey, like, look at me, I'm here. And I think it's not easy, right? Because people are very comfortable with what they know. And to wake up to a brand new world, to understand US is not in their comfort zone. So I guess the saving grace for me is having been in the industry for a while. I mean, we always make friends, right?
Yeah.
So there were friends, investors, analysts, media I've known, and they were quite nice. I mean, so we just caught up, listen to what they kind of like have a perception already, right? Listen to what they have to say, and I share what I'm trying to do, and it's just like casual, right? I'm not trying to sell them like, you need to love my Manulife US REIT because I'm awesome. So I mean, so that was like maybe the feedback, understanding what the concerns were, and very quickly the key takeaway was, I mean, it may sound shocking maybe to you, Ben, because you sit in San Fran. A lot of people in Singapore are not that familiar with US. And when we think of US, you think of like New York, like San Francisco, Boston, maybe Washington. And outside of the gateway cities, people are like, huh? Irvine? Like, where is that? So even when I first joined, I'm like, Irvine, Orange County. Okay, I mean, I've been to LA and all, but I had to read up. And we had property in Atlanta. And the only thing I knew about Atlanta was it was the HQ of Coca-Cola because I used to see it in my cinema.
Right.
Before they screen the thing, they have this train running past and then they say Atlanta. And I'm like, okay, so I have 3 properties and one is like, you know, in LA, which is maybe okay. And then the other one is in Irvine, and then I have one in Atlanta. So I had to actually even find out what and how to kind of like help people understand the market.
Yeah.
So what I went through my thought process was, okay, first of all, it's not going to be easy for people to understand US because it's so big. And one of the strategies that I had also to plan out my IR timeline and what I want to achieve was to kind of like I would say strengthen my investor base, because when we got listed in 2016, a huge percentage of my investor base were retail and high net worth. And I mean, it's good, you know, that you have the support when you got listed, but I guess when you want to grow bigger, you want it to be institutionalized.
Sure.
So with that in mind, I have this like high touch strategy. I mean, it's like my own terminology. So this high touch strategy means that I just need to make sure that people will want to hear about me, people want to come and see me and learn what we are doing. And to be honest, no one's going to come for my results briefing. You know, I'm not going to come and listen to Manulife US REIT present their 3 properties update because I'm not interested, right? I mean, I'm the only US REIT. There is nothing around me. And with the top leadership mindset, because I want to help the market understand, we kind of like curated quite a series of topical seminars, conferences for investors, for analysts, and we invited our chief economist down to Singapore. So we have the brand name like Manulife. So we have our chief economist who actually advises the central banks, the Fed. And then that was during the peak of trade war that was happening. So we invited her down. We had like a 3 days conference talking about US, China trade war, different pockets for like institutional investors, like high net worth, for retail, for analysts, for media. And we had interviews with CNBC, the media. So just to get full profiling. And that was one of those that we did. And another one that was very interesting was because after Trump got elected, he also made changes to the US Tax Act. So I mean, I'm not sure if you recall that, but that kind of created havoc for me because there were articles and reports attacking my tax structure. Right. And I'm going to I'm doomed. You know, my income's going to drop by 30% because of this tax act thing. And what we quickly did was I had a 2 days tax seminar whereby we invited our US tax advisor down to Singapore. It was his first time in Singapore. So he was as excited as I was. And we reached out to the investors, we reached out to the media and analysts. And what was interesting is more than about 60 to 70% of the attendees are not invested in US REIT, which is me. And it was the first time they were meeting Manulife US REIT. Wow. So that was my objective. So my objective is I want you to come and see me that, you know, like we are pretty decent people. You know, this is like my CEO, this is my CFO, this is me. And I mean, I know most of them, but for them to want to meet my management team is going to take a little bit more effort. So rather than saying like, why don't you come for my results briefing? You know, I am like my results are so good. I'll give you something that you want to know, right? Because even if you are not invested in the US REIT, guess what? You actually are invested in another REIT or another company that has exposure in US.
Sure.
So everyone's concern was, oh no, what does it mean for me? Is it going to affect me? And some of them have properties in US, right? Direct investment. So everybody was very curious on what it meant. And so it was overwhelming response. So we had like close to 150 or so people came for the 2 day seminar throughout the period itself. And that was just one of the many examples that we focus on, which is very different, I would say, from a normal mainstream IR, because I have peers who ask me, why are you doing thought leadership? It's nothing to do with you, you know? I say, yeah, I know, but I'm a US REIT, you know, like how else can I do it differently? And I actually threw half of what I've like, you know, done in my previous IR roles in other firms, because it's a different animal, right? So we have to look at what we can offer. And slowly but surely, I guess throughout the weeks, years, and months, I think people kind of know like, okay, I mean, these guys are okay, you know, they deliver good results. And also I know them a bit more now, and so today I think together with other plans and very focused ideas, we have more than I think 60% of our investor base are institutions.
Yeah.
So that has been a very big push. And how I look at it in my IR DNA is change is the only constant. So we have to keep evolving. I cannot use the methods that I have used in the very big firms that I have joined, because if I have 40 analysts covering me and I have like 80% institutional investors, actually I'm just very busy trying to answer all their queries, right? I don't have to think of how to get them in. So very different in how the approach has to be when you are in different situations. Yeah, so that's something that to me is what I can share.
Yeah, well, it's really impressive to hear how proactive you are, as you say, in terms of the thought leadership and in kind of creating visibility for the company you work for and for the stock, and in terms of owning the story. I'm curious around that kind of piece, around that sort of marketing piece and the thought leadership piece. You know, something that stands out to me is your IR website. I think it's visitors can get some really detailed information on there, and it's a really quite sophisticated IR website. And so I'm curious about, you know, how you think about your IR website, how often you sort of take a look at the content that's on there, and how you view it as an extension of your IR program.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely very important, especially, you know, when you are kind of like still a new listing, a new REIT, right? People either go to your website to get information, because not everyone has like connections to me directly or to the management team. Sure. So that's the first actually port of call they go in, besides using the brokers. And with MiFID and everything, people are trying to, like, you know, do it on their own DIY. Yeah. So we look at the website on a very rigorous basis, because we feel that is one of the first port of call that investors will go in. And you may have noticed some of the things that we do a bit differently. And also because we're so far away, I think we are the only REIT in Singapore that has videos for all our properties. So we actually do a video for properties, because I mean, I don't expect you to fly to like New Jersey or to Atlanta. Sure. You have no idea, right? But we do a video so that you have a sense of what's in the amenities and how the building looks like it's real. You can walk through it. Yeah. And we have also along the years tweak it. And what is interesting is during the COVID, you know, like the last 2 months, my colleague has actually been working really hard on this little project that we have. So what we're trying to do is, one of the things that I'm trying to change or attract will be the ESG funds. So we are quite big on our sustainability, and we're trying to have a section, an individual drop down on sustainability. So to list down what we do, because it's like hidden in my annual report, page 110. Sure. And unless you are very diligent, right, which some investors do, they will go and then they will search for it. So to put it, pull out as a main tab, and then when you drop down, you have our accolades, you have our board statement on how they view sustainability. I think that will be quite helpful. So that is that should be up in the next couple of weeks or so. We're just trying to clean up some of the aesthetics of it. And the other thing that, which you correctly mentioned, is we deem it the green dot series. So I like to give them like terminologies, right? So green dot series is actually a thought leadership pieces that we want to host. And if you are a new investor, or if you are just someone who wants to know what we do, we are trying to put and pull all the articles that will give you color on the US office on this section. So if you want to know about, like, you know, for example, now the biggest topic is about work from home. Will people even go back to office, right? Come what may. So we want to put like things that when you kind of like read it, you have a holistic view of what's happening, because people don't know where to go to look for information, and I get that very often. So even in our quarterly slides, we started doing things a bit differently 2 years ago. Besides just presenting my results, which is my financials that you can see, you know, my income, my occupancy of the properties, we have a little section called the green dot. And what it means is, in that I have about 2 or 3 slides that introduces you to a new topic. So one of it, for example, when we first started was the difference between the leasing structure or the leasing in US and in Singapore. Because in Singapore, the leases are like 3 years. In US, it's like on average 7 to 10 years, and then there's different terminologies. So we have things like that. And so we theme that like thought leadership green dot, so that you don't compare me all the time with Singapore REITs because it's a bit different.
Sure.
So that's one thing that we are doing on using the website, and I think hopefully that is going to be a bit helpful to the audience. Yeah, I mean, give me your feedback when you have time to look at it too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very impressive IR website. I think it's you do a great job with it, and it's really interesting talking to you about you're clearly you have these little sort of brand names for the different exercises that you have, and that's it's quite cool to hear how you think about your IR program. I'm slightly wary about time, Carol, so I
Yes, sure.
really appreciate you joining and chatting today. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and I hope that you stay safe and sane in Singapore. So thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ben. Hope to see you soon.